What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you concerning Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. The two champions have decided to duke it out on March 31st of this year. I look forward to this fight because it's another stepping stone to unify all the belts. The more boxing is not viewed to having tournament style fights, is the more fights are starting to be like tournaments. Because if you look at it, you look at Luis Ortiz and Deontay Wilder. They finally agreed to fight on March the 3rd. So it's basically a unification month. So really, winner should take all. I shouldn't see why any of these fighters wouldn't want to fight each other for all the belts. You know what I mean? Because these two guys are fighting. It's like basically a wild card. I look forward to this fight, man, because for a lot of reasons. For one, Anthony Joshua has been in there with an opponent that did give him some diversity, which is Vladimir Klitschko, which was a very good fight, probably one of the fights of the year last year. And, he got off the canvas to win in a dynamic fashion. However, Joseph Parker has not. So Joseph Parker really needs this type of fight if he's going to, be a force in the heavyweight division. I believe he has the WBO belt, which Anthony Joshua, he has the IBO, the IBF, and the WBA Super. Okay, so then Deontay Wilder, of course, has the WBC. So his has that portion of the belt. And him and Luis Ortiz, let's see if he can retain it when he fights him. So I've done a video on that. So let's stick to Joshua and Parker. Well, let's look at the stats. Anthony Joshua is 20-0, 20 knockouts, almost a perfect record. Kind of reminds me of, I would say, for Fernando Vargas when he started, but he's got past Fernando Vargas, since he's triumphed in his victories over Vladimir Klitschko and other guys like Dylan White. So Joseph Parker, his record is 24 wins, I think 18 by knockout or something like that. So, he has some power himself. Height, Anthony Joshua's billed at 6'6". Joseph Parker 6'4", but it looks like I think Joseph Parker's more like 6'3", honestly. I mean, I don't, because the way this was, you look at one guy's like this, Anthony Joshua's like this, Joseph Parker's like that, right? So, Joseph Parker, I don't think he's 6'4", unless Anthony Joshua's a lot taller than 6'6". You know what I'm saying? So, the reach, Anthony Joshua's like 82-inch reach, Joseph Parker is 77, and that's going to mean a lot, and I'll explain why in a minute. But you got these guys that Anthony Joshua, like I said before, he has been dropped. He's been dropped in sparring, so they say. He's been dropped during Vladimir Klitschko, and of course in the before he turned pro. So he's had some diversity with the canvas. So meanwhile, Joseph Parker hasn't ever been dropped or stopped. He reminds me of his Samoan predecessor, David Tua, because David Tua was known for never been dropped, never been stopped, and a granted chin, a good chin, So something about the island guys, man, they do have good chins. You know what I mean? I think that's a genetic thing, something that fits the demographic. Parker, I think he's a little bit more durable in terms of punches that he can take because of that fact. And I think he's just a sturdier guy, but he's going to need it against Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua, I think that because he's taken some punches and he's been dropped, he's I wouldn't call him a little chinny, but I would say for someone that size, I think that would be a weak point, something that you definitely want to exploit if you are in Parker's camp. So, but Anthony Joshua, I see him winning the fight, but I wouldn't overlook Joseph Parker simply because Joseph Parker is a guy that can take a punch, but can he take Anthony Joshua's punch? Dominique Brazil, same guy with similar background, the Samoan, and he was a strong guy too, which he still is. But, when Anthony Joshua started putting together those combos, it was a different story. So we just got to see if Joseph Parker can take his punch. And if he can, I think it'll be a long night for Anthony Joshua, because what happened with him and Vladimir, he put Vladimir down in the 5th. Vladimir came back and put him down in the 6th, because what happened, he thought that he was going to get him out of there, and he gassed himself out. So the conditioning and stamina definitely goes to Joseph Parker, because let's face it, Anthony Joshua, I like the guy. He's big, he's talented, but he's just too big. I think the muscle weighs against him when it goes into the later rounds. But he has the heart to balance that out. You know what I'm saying? So, because he was out on his feet rounds 8 and 9 of that bout with Vladimir Klitschko, and I thought it was going to be over with just a matter of minutes and a matter of a punch being landed. But he did, he did hold his own. He did survive. So, but I see the fight easy, I think. But the power, Anthony has the power. Joshua has the power. He's the most powerful puncher out of the two. Joseph Parker, I believe, he's more of a brawler. He has to fight to get on the inside, because Anthony Joshua is beating him by 5 inches. That's a lot. That's a lot when you're talking about arm length. So he has to fight to get inside. You know what I mean? And work the body, which Parker's good at doing. He's good at working the body. So he can set up something good downstairs. But so is Anthony Joshua. So I think if Parker can get him into the later rounds and can survive the onslaught, because that's one coming. It's going one coming at him, because there's a lot of trash talk that's been talking, and then I'm going to explain that here in a second. But I think that Joseph Parker would have to survive the early rounds to get to the later rounds, maybe 7, 8, and 9. He can start working a little something as Anthony Joshua will slow down, because he does have this lull. I mean, when he punches, and then you have that type of power and you're throwing that type of power, it's only so much of those punches that you can throw, or land and still stay with the same type of stamina. So, but, Joshua can definitely punch. Parker, he can set up, he has a pretty good right hand, but it's not devastating knockout power. You know what I'm saying? But he can land some together, and let's see what his punches can do to Anthony Joshua. And to the trash talking, man, these both guys both laid, into each other. I think Joseph Parker went below the belt a little bit with the roids, because you can get sued for that type of stuff. But nonetheless, he's not the only one that says that. So you really just can't be like, oh God, why did he say that? You know what I mean? He's not the only one that said that. Deontay Wilder mentioned that, and other fighters have mentioned that. Tyson Fury's mentioned that. So that really that shouldn't bother Anthony Joshua too much. You know what I mean? If anything, it should motivate him to put on a quick onslaught in the beginning of this fight, which I think is going to happen. I think Anthony Joshua's going to come out there throwing those bows, so, and then it's up to Joseph Parker to stop him, to avoid that from happening, so, but yeah, I look forward to the fight, man. A lot of the fights, the heavyweight division is coming alive and well, and I just look forward to a great fight between the two. What else about these guys? I seen the press conference today, and I want to add this. I look at Joseph Parker. This is his first time on this level, and you can tell because he looked nervous. He kept drinking water. You know what I mean? But he's not saying anything. But he's constantly drinking water because his throat. He probably felt his throat dried up or whatever. But he really didn't have too much to say. So I think that was kind of like a nervous mechanism. A little tick. You know what I'm saying? That's something that indicates. You could see his eyes were moving around, and then he was clearing his throat when there's nothing else. No one was asking him anything. So, that's just signs that he was nervous. So, it could mean something. It could mean nothing. But I did, I did witness that, and it looked kind of like you could tell that Joseph Parker's out of his comfort zone. So that might motivate him, or that might demote him. You know what I mean? We will see March 31st. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this. But this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.